Ricky, it's Monday. Not having our usual Sunday show. Sorry to all the fans and listeners out there. And I'm in a hallway, by the way, recording this. And also, the Reds won a divisional series. Is everything okay? Because I feel like things are turning upside down. Left is right. Dogs are liking cats. Cats are liking dogs. I don't know what's going on anymore. Let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it.
This is the Red Hot Reds podcast. Here are your hosts, Ricky Logan and Roger Straz.
Welcome to the Red Hot Reds, a Cincinnati Reds podcast on a Monday. We're recapping the week. I guess, Chase Burns is supposed to go tonight, but Ricky, you had to write about the weather delay, so we're a little bit weather delayed ourselves, vacation delayed. I'm in a hallway recording in the middle of South Carolina, parts unknown, and basically trying to make sense of this baseball team, Ricky, because 3 straight series wins out of the All-Star break. What is going on? Things are not normal. What is going on?
Dude, we're 5 games out of a wild card spot right now. It's funny because it was all doom and gloom the Sunday before the All-Star break. And, I think it was Mark Sheldon that wrote about the Reds series that are the road trip after the All-Star break coming up and how that could determine if they're going to hard sell or soft sell or potentially even buy. And they go out and take 2 out of 3 in Colorado. They take 2 out of 3 in Seattle, and they take 2 out of 3 in St. Louis. And man, this is weird. This is really weird. It almost feels like April again. And, the bullpen's pitching really well. Everything's going well right now. You hate to break up the band, but, you still have to try to get as many assets as you can for the future. But, yeah, man, it's weird. A division series win, the world's upside down.
Yeah, it is getting crazy over here. Not just in Cincinnati, but anywhere else that's a Cincinnati fan. And you must have been reading my notes, Ricky, because that's almost like word from word some of the notes I had down here about this week. And it's kind of crazy because they come out and they play Colorado. 2 out of 3, that's kind of a gimme because, Colorado is Colorado. They've got some good parts that they're potentially going to sell themselves, but they're still in rebuild mode themselves. Seattle, a little bit more surprising. Obviously, one of those starts, I believe, for Seattle was an Abbott start and a Burns start. So you have a good chance of winning that series, even though that team, I think at the time, was at the top of the AL West or like second in the AL West. So like a pretty decent team that is in contention. Obviously, the AL is much worse than the NL, and we can get into that for days. But then you go to St. Louis. These are all on the road, by the way, right? Like at Colorado, at Seattle, at St. Louis. I was thinking at least 3-3. That's a great week. You lose 2 out of 3 to St. Louis. The fans aren't going to be that upset. But then you go out and go into extras. And another part of the Reds organization or the Reds like last couple of years has been terrible. I think, Ricky, you cited it on the show a lot about like they don't win in extra innings. Even with the Manfred runner to help them out, they don't win in extra innings. They're like really, really, really poor. And they do it. Sal Stu, Nate Lowe, come up big. I don't know. It's kind of getting weird. With regards to the selling or staying pat or buying, they could probably do selling and buying because there are some pieces that are not going to be on this team in 2027. So there's no point of keeping them around. But they could also potentially add an arm, add a player with some team control, maybe add some prospects. I don't know. It's kind of a weird situation that we're in. The Reds are good, but I think it's like you said, they're looking like a little bit like the April 2026 version of this Reds. And I'm not sure if that's necessarily a good thing or that's because like this 2011, right? We were 2011 on May 1st. Everyone cites that stat, and since then they've been garbage, to say it nicely. I just don't know what they do from here because they've got Cleveland, who's a playoff potential team, and they got Pittsburgh, a playoff potential team. But I don't know. It's such a weird situation they're in right now.
Yeah, I was thinking about this too. You mentioned the buying and selling. I think they kind of did that last year a little bit, and the year before. 2023, they kind of bought, but they didn't really buy. They kind of just added Sam Moll, and that was about it.
Yeah,
last year, they added Andujar. They added Ke'Bryan Hayes. I feel like there was a pitcher. I don't know why I'm blanking, but I don't know. It feels like this year, like the Reds are a better team than what they played all year long, up, after post-April. And, if they can play, let's just say 60% of April, like that's a winning team. And, Ellie and Sal can carry the offense. You got Chase Burns, Hunter Green didn't look great his last time out, but it's also his fourth start back. It's kind of expected. And Lodolo could be coming back in the coming weeks. Rhett Lauder looked pretty good his last time out. So they got starters. I would look to move if I'm. I guess we can kind of talk about this now a little bit. If I'm moving pieces, I'm moving Pagán if I can. I'm moving Pierce Johnson if I can, and then I'm trying to add to the bullpen without calling people up if you can avoid it, because I think if you call people up, then you're kind of going into tank mode, which I think we're not totally against, because what's this team going to look like in September when we have to play the Dodgers, the Blue Jays, the Cubs, there's Brewers. There's a lot of big games in September that I just don't have a lot of confidence in this team to win. So I'm still with selling. I'm not 100% into tanking, but I'm not against it. It stinks, man, because we get this false hope every year. It's always this year at the trade deadline. The Reds get hot. It changes the front office's mind, and then they just completely fall apart again. And maybe this year will be different. Like we saw it last year. They never really got hot, and they just got lucky and snuck into the playoffs. And can that happen again? I mean, it can. Like the Marlins have lost 10 in a row, if not more, based on MLB's. They stops at 10, so it says they're 0-10 in their last 10. I don't know how many more they've lost beyond that, but like 2 more games and they jump a spot. And if you're sitting there August 3rd and you're 2.5 games out of a wild card spot, like I don't see a world where you wouldn't try. It's just, I don't know. It would have to be like a really sizable move to like move the needle to where it's going to really enhance the offense, really improve the bullpen, potentially really bolster the rotation. It's just going to take a lot of big moves that I just don't think the Reds could make or will make, to be honest. But, let's enjoy it while we got it. Let's win some games. Let's be happy fans, and just be disappointed in September again.
Yeah, on that Miami Marlins note, they've lost 12 in a row. They have completely gone the other way because they were one of the best teams in baseball in June, and just the bottom dropped off. I mean, feels like they haven't won a game the whole month of July. And then, who's probably laughing at us is probably Nick Kroll and Brad Meador, because the whole fan base has been saying, hire a Tampa Bay Rays guy. Guess who did that? The Miami Marlins. They hired Peter Bendix out of the Tampa Bay Rays organization. And Nick Kroll and Brad Meador are just like, okay, go ahead, hire a Rays guy. See how that works out for the Miami Marlins. But I don't know. I still feel like I'm still firmly on the sell and selling off the pieces that aren't going to be here. The Brady Singers, the Ty Steve. Unfortunately, Ty Steve sounds like is one of the hottest trade commodities out there. He's potentially going to be a Yankee. He could be a Dodger, and he could be a Chicago White Sox. Both of those teams, all three of those teams are right there at the top of their division or leading their division. So Ty Steve might be a rental, but he might have a chance in the playoffs to be a part of a winning team, which would be exciting because, aside from 2020, I don't think Ty Steve in 2025, Ty Steve's really been a part of a playoff team. So, but that's neither here nor there. That hasn't happened yet. The craziest thing about this team is that they, even though like they would show a little bit of signs of life, win a couple, series here and there, sweep a team here, win 5 out of 6 or whatever, they couldn't beat the division. They couldn't. So this division series win against the Cardinals changes our minds. Like, is water going to find its level? Because what were they going into the Cardinals? Were they 6-22 going into this or something like that? Some crazy stat where they were really, really terrible against the NL Central. So, I mean, obviously winning 2 out of 3 doesn't like completely get us back to 500. 8-23 by my math, which is still, that's a rough looking stat. They were bottom. Like, there's always those X to everything app type of graphics that they put up there, like total team war. Reds are at the bottom. Division record at the bottom. They used to be pretty good at one-run games. Now they're like mid to bottom, and then like extra innings. They would always be at the bottom of that graphic. So like, I don't know if this team can dig itself out of the hole that it put itself in May and June. It may be too little, too late, which is why I'm still kind of firmly in the sell category, because this ain't it. This team isn't going to win a World Series. This is not the 2021 Braves who were like 500 for the longest time and then all of a sudden make a run and go win the World Series. This is not, like some sort of crazy wild card run that they're going to get in there and just, beat the Dodgers and beat whoever else that's, the Braves. The Braves are going to be great. Gosh, they have a great chance this year. But anyway, not a Brave podcast. I'm trying to say is that this team needs to look to the future, which is going to annoy Reds fans. A bunch of Reds fans are already annoyed. The ones that really follow this team are really annoyed that they're actually winning, because this is kind of like opposite of what they were probably hoping. Like, I was hoping for Hector Rodriguez in September. If they're 3 games, 2 games, 1 game out of a playoff spot, I don't think Hector Rodriguez sees the field in 2026 as a Cincinnati Red. So I don't know. There's so many things that are happening that Nick Krall said that they were selling, right? Didn't we get that quote already? So has things changed? Are we going to get another quote this week if they beat the Cleveland Guardians? I hope not. And we're to be sellers and buyers. I can see that. That seems what, like we talk about the Milwaukee Brewers all the time. They do that all the time. They sell off guys that aren't going to be on the roster for future years because they can't extend them. Boom. Get some prospects back for Freddie Peralta, right? And then they figure out how to, buy some guys at the deadline that may make their playoff team that much stronger. So I don't know. This team's a mess. It's totally confusing me, especially if they have another winning week. I don't know what to do with them because it feels like the hole we've dug is just too far down there,
Yeah, so the Reds are 8-23 against the division. That is the worst record in baseball against a division for any team, Major League Baseball. But yeah, let's talk a little bit about the series, because it was a weird series. They scored 3 runs in the 10th on Sunday, and I couldn't tell you the last time they scored more than a run in extra innings period, not just 1 inning in extra innings. So Sunday, they fall behind early. They fall down 1-0, and then Abbott looked pretty good. Didn't have his greatest stuff. It was really hot in St. Louis. I think they said it was field temperature was like 105 on the field, and they come back in the third to tie it, and then St. Louis jumps ahead 2-1. Then they tie it again in the 5th, and it was 3-3 or 3-3 in the 5th, or 3-2 in the 5th, and then St. Louis scores 1 in the 10th to go ahead, or 2-2, sorry. And yeah, I mean, like Ellie homered, Sal homered. It's kind of been the typical offense for the year. I kind of backtracking a little bit. I wanted to give you a scenario where Hector could still come up and play. TJ Friedel, it's TJ Friedel. I just don't think he's major league talent this season. And if, let's just say, Blade was to get moved, that could be your opening for Hector, especially being a lefty. It would just be like an even swap. But yeah, I mean, it was nice Sunday, extra innings, seeing 3 runs. Was it Sal pinch hit and then hits the single, RBI single, and then I think Ellie struck out, and then Steer, I think he got out too. But I'm not I'm at a loss for words because I'm not used to seeing this team score runs in extra innings because it's just so rare. I'll have to do some research, but I couldn't tell you the last time they scored more than a run in extras, let alone 1 inning.
I think the guy that we probably should credit, Nate Lowe, got an RBI or 2 RBIs.
That's what it was. Yes,
against Detroit, he I think had a 2-run homer to win the game because they were down in that crazy rain delay that the Tigers wanted to play the next day. And Tito's like, no, I think we'll play tonight because they kind of knew, because I think the Tigers were up like 7-0 in that game back in April. This is going way back. Again, we're talking about April again. This is kind of the thing. And that's kind of the thing that I thought you were reading directly off my notes, is because if you notice the games that the Reds played in, especially this series against the Cardinals, they won close, right? They won in extras on Sunday. They won 4-2 on Friday, but then they got blown out. So, like, again, I know we're not big run differential guys, but, like, still, that was like April, right? Like, they would win a series like 2-1, 3-2 in some games, and then lose like 7-3 or 10-1, and just like they just didn't have it. The getaway game or whatever it was, right? The pitching matchup just blew up. Who knows? But like that, it kind of repeated itself also in the Seattle series that we'll talk about. But like it's kind of weird that this team is. It can be like really competitive one day, and the next day just folded up, all done for the day. You know what I mean? That it just kind of it reminds me a lot of April of 2026. It's just kind of that kind of vibe of the team.
Yeah, and kind of harping on that, we were talking about, can the team get hot? And Ellie and Sal have really carried the offense this season. And in May, even though the team stunk, JJ Bleday was elite during the month of May. He's kind of looking a little better here recently. Hasn't been great ever since May, but let's just say the Reds stay put at the deadline. They make their soft sell. They trade Stephenson, they trade Singer, they trade Pagán, and then they keep Suarez, they keep Lowe just for the offense's sake. And let's just say going into September, we're 3 to 5 games out of a playoff spot. And maybe, just maybe, this is the big ask for the Reds, but let's just say they go 3 games over 500 in September and somehow sneak in, and you're needing to beat some really good teams in September. They play San Diego September 1st, Milwaukee September 4th. They go to LA September 7th to play the Dodgers. They go to Milwaukee on September 11th. They play the Dodgers again on September 14th at home. They play the Cubs at home September 18th. Then on September 22nd, they go to Atlanta. And then for the final series of the season, September 25th, they go to Toronto. Every one of those teams is in the playoffs. Like it's going to be tough because even in August, you're facing Arizona. San Francisco has been bad this year, but you're going to the Cubs, and then you finish the month of August with Game 1 in versus San Diego. So August is going to be huge because if let's just say they take 2 out of 3 versus Cleveland, and they can find a way to split the series versus the Pirates, take 2 out of 4. They're playing the A's, then they go to Washington, then they go to the White Sox, then they play Miami, then they play St. Louis. They have a doubleheader on that Monday. Then they go to Arizona, San Francisco, Chicago. So it's gonna be tough. Like even August is pretty tough. I mean, the A's have had their issues, and the A's could be a reunion playing Tyler Stephenson, by the way, because I think their catcher just got hurt. They might be looking to add a catcher, which I'm not against. But yeah, I mean, it's the final 2 months of this season are going to be really tough. And hot take, if they can find a way to sneak in, play in this schedule of games, I think they could take a series in the playoffs. It's just they're going to have to get to it first. I don't think it's likely that they do it, but I'm just saying if they were to find a way to get in facing these teams, I think they can win a series depending on who they play. But it's going to be tough.
Oh, for sure. And yeah, you end up facing the top wild card at that point, or the 4th place or 3rd place. I forget. They'd be sneaking in again. But this 2025 team that got kind of gifted to get into the playoffs with the Mets losing, this 2026 version of the Reds would definitely earn it based on all those teams you listed, and especially that September. When we saw the schedule, last July when it was put out, goodness, I think I made the joke that the Reds would have to be like 5 games into a playoff berth. They'd have to be, you know what I mean, like all the way in the playoffs to be able to survive that September, because yeah, you're talking about, San Diego and Toronto being the worst of those teams, and those teams are still like playoff quality rosters. I think as far as I saw San Diego is still under 500. I want to say also
Toronto is under 500. Yes.
Yeah, they're having struggle seasons, but they're not chumps. Either way, the point being is that the Reds would have to earn it. Basically, they have to earn it all the way, no doubt about it. August 1st to the end of September, they would have to win series that I don't think any Reds fan would think in any logical day that they would, have to win. I mean, obviously they did last year against kind of all odds, but that was kind of a little bit gifted to them with the Mets really sliding. I don't know what would have to happen. Obviously the Marlins are doing their part by getting out of the way. So
we always find a way to have the Marlins help us out.
Thank you, Marlins, again. But, I think basically this team, it'd be nice. It would be a nice, helpful way to like have us have like a really nice ending to the summer and get us to football season. But I don't know, man. This team could then, go on a huge losing streak as well and just kind of end up bottoming out like they did in May, like they did a little bit in June. I'm not sure. That's the thing that we're having here. We're scratching our heads like, which team are we watching? Because we could have another month of the April 2026 Reds. It could be the August 2026 Reds that we're going to be talking about. Like, remember that month? Kind of like we talk about June 2023, right? Or whatever, comes to mind. But like, yeah, it's nice to win. Like, I think you've said this a lot, Ricky. It's nice to win, but I think we need to realize what this team is and not be fooled by them every single time they go out there. Chase Burns is good. Ellie De La Cruz is good. Sal Stewart's good. Andrew Abbott's good. Hunter Green's good. Aside from that, we can sell them all as far as I'm concerned. So,
yeah,
but
yeah,
we can get into more of that, even more with the deadline with specifics, because big injury. I think you even wrote about it, but we'll get into that in a little bit. Anything else about this Cardinals series before we move on?
No, it was just really good to see a series win, and we'll take them all we can. They've only got 8 divisional wins all year, and we're going into August, so not great, but it was nice, especially on the road, to get a series win versus a division opponent on the road.
And like I've been saying on the show, Ricky, St. Louis Cardinals, frauds, bunch of frauds. All right. That's all I had to say about that series. But that wasn't the only series they won this week. Also won against a pretty decent Mariners team. Actually, maybe it's a facade in terms of that they're not doing as well as they did last year, where they almost made it to the World Series, right? They lost to Toronto in 7 games in the ALCS, exciting 7 games that Gino Suarez was a part of, hitting a grand slam that I thought that was going to carry them to the World Series when he did that for the Seattle Mariners. But now Cal Raleigh is a ghost of himself. J.P. Crawford, not so great. They've been having kind of a struggle of a year. Still they're toward the top of their division as opposed to us, closer to the bottom or the bottom. But we had some gutsy performances, what I remember from this series, because it felt like it could have been easily the Reds could have got swept. It could have been easily the Reds, end up coming out of beating Colorado and going on the West Coast and just kind of packing it in again. But they didn't. They battled back. They won the series. What were your first main takeaways for the Seattle Mariners series?
Yeah, I mean, after game 1, I thought, oh, here it is. This is where we fall apart. Kirby pitched really well. They only had 3 hits in the game. Abbott didn't have his stuff, and I thought, Cal Raleigh's going to get hot and carry Seattle into a playoff spot after this series versus the Reds, kind of like the Tigers in 2024. It was nice to see them turn it around and take 2 in a row to take the series. They won 4-2 on Tuesday and then 5-3 on Wednesday. And we got to old friend Luis Castillo on game 2. Not looking great in his his 4th season in Seattle now. And of course Chase Burns just being Chase Burns, just great. And then Ellie is getting hot. He homered in game 2, and it's like I said, like we said, it's just we're at a loss because we fully expected this team to suck going on this road trip. And you have Ellie, who has just really done everything he can to carry this team, and we've seen him improve in every facet of his game this season. Hitting right-handed has been his strongest suit this year. His defense has been phenomenal. His power is there. He's probably going to hit 30 home runs this year. I don't know, man. If this team was if April was all season long, you're looking at LA as a legitimate, serious threat to win MVP. And even with him missing time in early June, it just stinks, man. Because I think I tweeted back in March, I said the Reds have an MVP and a Rookie of the Year this year. Well, they could have had both had they continued to win games and not hit the basement May 1st. Sal I think he's probably an odds-on favorite to win Rookie of the Year. I know Weatherholt's really good in St. Louis. I think he's leading in WAR over Sal, but I think Sal's leading in almost every other category. But like I said, man, Ellie's doing everything he can. Leadoff Ellie should be here to stay. I love Ellie at the leadoff spot. I think, the lineup bingo joke, it was like the day after Tito said, we're not playing lineup bingo. He started playing lineup bingo, and I think he finally found an order that works, is having Ellie and Sal bat 1-2. It's just when you have guys, batting, 6, 7, 8, 9 with OPSs under 600, with 2 of them under 500, it's just not, it's not good. And you had TJ Friedel tied into that. I don't know. It was nice. I like that we have come out of the gates hot. As fans, you don't want to see your team lose, but it is when you're covering the team, trying to get the best interest of the team going forward, you kind of hope they lose the game so you can at least try to secure a better draft pick. You can try to trade off some assets, get some prospects in return. It was nice to take 2 out of 3 and win 2 in a row. It was just it's fun. It's just fun.
Yeah, you feel good when you have Abbott and Burns pitching 2 out of 3 games, and you also have a pretty decent Brady Singer coming out and pitching like he's, doing an audition for his next team. But, Abbott battled, but the bullpen blew up. There's obviously the controversy of walking the guy before Cal Raleigh, playing the numbers there, and he hits the grand slam. The bullpen just folds and ends up being a waste of a game. Like I said, kind of like the April 2026 Reds. They battle in some games, and then they have these games where they just everything falls apart and they lose 8-0 on the first game. You're right. Ellie has been a constant, and just both sides of the plate been a threat. No matter who's he's going up against, no matter what the scenario is. Like, I think weren't they making like a joke before Ellie hit a home run, or was it Gino, that like, well, they don't call it Great American Small Park for nothing, and then Ellie just crushed it out of Safeco Field or whatever they're calling it there in Seattle. So like, just desserts there. And then Sal with a big 3-run homer on the game 3 with Singer again pitching great. I don't know. Like, I wish the Reds somehow played 500 baseball in May and June, because at that point they would be in such a better position than they are now. The hole they've dug themselves feels like it's a bit insurmountable, even with all these great performances. I don't think it's sustainable that they're going to keep winning 2 out of 3 every series, 2 out of 3 every series. It doesn't feel sustainable as far as I can tell. I mean, they're going to possibly hit a skid, and then that might leave them 6 games out of the playoff spot, and kind of in this, no man's land where they're not tanking and, getting rid of all their assets. They're kind of just stuck in the middle, as the kids say, just mid, right? And they're not going to be a playoff team, and they're not going to be the bottom of the league. So like, what are we doing? You know what I mean? So it's kind of a weird spot. Like we've said all show already in the first 30 minutes. We don't know. We can't make a decision heads or tails what this team is actively doing. I think the front office will probably say, yeah, we're going to see how this plays out. And if it ends up, going south, they'll sell. But now they're playing well. So now we're going to keep our guys. I don't know. Time will tell. We got 1 week, right? 1 week to the deadline. So we're going to find out sooner or later, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, Brady Singer's pitched really well over his last 7 starts. A 1.02 whip, 41 strikeouts, a 2.98 ERA. He's 3-3 in those games. I think he should be moved. I think if you're a smart franchise, I think even if you're short on starters, you make the move, and then you just bring somebody up to fill in those games, or you just trade for somebody like a soft buy and a soft sell. But I'm really glad to see Singer pitching well, not only because of that, because it's really helping this team win games too. When if we are going to be competitive, it's very important that he does that, because he looked terrible to begin this season. And, I guess we could talk about that a little bit later when we go into Steers news and everything. But, yeah, after game 1, I thought here we go. This is what's going to end everything. And there goes any hope of, we played Colorado. We won 2 out of 3 in Colorado. Now we're facing real teams. And here we go. We're going to start losing again. But hey, I don't mind seeing it being interesting. But let me ask you this. Would you rather miss the playoffs entirely, know you're out of it going into September, or would you rather have exciting baseball in September and you either miss the playoffs by like a game or make the playoffs by a game, but then you get bounced in the first round? Like what would you rather have? Because I feel like any fan of a team wants to see their team in the playoffs, but at the end of the day, it's like if you know you're not going to win a series, it makes it tough to really get excited about it. Kind of like last year when we played the Dodgers.
I would say, is there a third option? I feel like I'd like to have an exciting end of the summer, win a bunch of games in August, go into September with that hope, but maybe just miss it. Maybe like the 2023 Reds. Like we were just there because then you can say, well, if we made it, we would have been like the 2023 Diamondbacks. We would have went all the way to the World Series. But, it's kind of it's a Schrodinger's cat thing. Inside the box, you don't know if the cat's alive or dead, but for sure if you don't open it, then it's not dead. But getting into physics type stuff. But basically, we want a situation where we feel like, yeah, we're good enough to almost make the playoffs, but then we don't want to find out by getting trounced by the Dodgers in a 3-game set that is just uncompetitive, like we found out in 2025. But, there's always that adage, right? Like, you got to get in to win. You got to get into the dance. You got to be able to make it into the playoffs. Otherwise, you never know if you can make it there. And baseball is one of the most random sports out there because, a bunch of guys could get hot. Was it Miguel? What was the guy that the shortstop for the Dodgers who had a great series and ended up helping them win the World Series? Miguel Vargas? No, that's
Vargas. Yeah.
Or Miguel
Rojas.
Miguel Rojas, like a no-namer, a guy that's what happens. Like there's a bunch of, you look on the list of like all-star or not all-star, World Series MVPs. They're not surefire Hall of Famers. They're just guys that got hot at the right time. It's like hockey with a goaltender. You get a hot goaltender, you can go from being the 8th seed to the Stanley Cup final. Baseball can be random like that. And do I think this team, if they get hot, could be good? Yeah, maybe, but I don't know. It feels like the NL in general is way, way better than the AL. If we're talking about like the Chicago White Sox, like if the Reds were in the AL Central, yeah, I say try to get in because the AL is much, much weaker as far as we can tell. You know what I mean? You don't have to go through the Dodgers or the Braves or the Phillies, or you know what I mean? Or who's the top of the I guess, the Brewers, right?
Yeah.
So like the NL seems so much stronger competition that if they sneak in with 84, 85 wins, they're probably right. They're probably getting swept again. So I don't know. I don't know if that answers your question, Ricky. But
well, I was thinking just because I remember back in like the late early 2000s, like 2008, 9, 7, 6, around that time, you'd always hear like the Reds, they're going to play spoilers. We're not in contention, but we're gonna play spoilers. And I feel like that mindset just kind of hurt the team because you didn't have the best prospects coming up. You didn't have you were putting yourself, because back in those days you were selected by your draft pick by your record. So if you finished with the worst record in baseball, you got the number 1 overall pick. And the Reds have never had a number 1 overall pick. And part of that is because they had that mindset in the early 2000s of playing spoiler. And then you have, notoriously, you have ownership holding on the guys too long, not trading assets when they should have, like not Hunter Green, cheese, like Edinson Volquez, Johnny Cueto, Homer Bailey, like those guys, Todd Frazier, Billy Hamilton, not trading those guys when you can, Jay Bruce, to name a few. Like when you hold on to those guys too long, they lose their trade value, and then you're not getting anything in return. They've gotten a little bit better recently. I think the 2022 fire sale was a tell on that when they traded everybody and they tanked the whole season. I just think they called the rebuild too early. They said the rebuild was complete after 1 season, and in baseball, that just doesn't happen. Like rebuilds take time. Like you can't call a rebuild done after 1 year. Like yeah, you have talented players, but you needed to have a backup option for Matt McLain if he was to fall off, and injuries happened and he fell off. You needed backup options for an aging TJ Friedel. You needed backup options for, third base. Marte didn't work at third. And, you never really had a first baseman post Joey Votto. Like now we do, but I don't think Stewart should be locked into first base. He plays a really good third base and second base too. So I don't hate, going into September with the hope of making the playoffs and then you lose in the playoffs. Because I think any fan of their team wants to see their team in the playoffs. It's just we've been so accustomed to this team losing the first series of a playoff series, dating back to what, 95? I was 3 years old, so I've never really seen a team advance in the playoffs. I've seen three really good Reds teams my entire life, and I'd like for that to change. I would like to see a team go into the NLCS. I'd like to see a team, go into Game 7 of the division series. I don't want to see this team go into the wild card, lose Game 1 and you're out, or go into the other wild card and you win, lose 2 out of 3 and you're out. I want those days to be done. But then I also I want to see my team in the playoffs.
Yeah. I think we started this podcast, Ricky, because we kind of, at least for me, I caught the 2023 wave, thinking not that the rebuild was complete, but that they're kind of due, right? Just in terms of sports logic, baseball logic of almost every 15 years you have kind of a cycle. And also now that the Detroit Lions have advanced in the playoffs, the Reds now own the dubious record of the last team to advance to the next round of the playoffs, having the oldest record with 1995. Before that, the Lions, I think, were 1992 that they hadn't advanced in the playoffs. So now the Cincinnati Reds stand in last place for the longest streak of not advancing in a major sports playoff. And that hurts because that's generations of fans. That's 31 years of fans that you could potentially lose if you do it again. If you don't advance, if you don't have even the hope. The hope is what kills, I guess, basically. But I don't know. It is frustrating because you think that this team would be taking steps forward. That's the one thing we talked about in the preseason, the beginning of this year is that's what you would like to see. Do we think we're going to win 100 games? No, obviously not. 90, I think, was the high watermark. But now it's kind of really dispiriting to think that the high watermark of this organization is 83 wins. You say that stat all the time, Ricky, that the last time the Reds won 90 games was in 2013. And that's a long time ago for some people. That's a generation of baseball fans right there that haven't seen a 90-win team. And that's kind of, I don't know. This is kind of, kind of sad. Kind of like the Steer injury.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
We'll get into that injury and talk about trade deadline talks after this ad.
Listen up, Reds fans. If you're repping the Cincinnati Reds this season, you need your drink just as cold as your takes. Introducing Frost Buddy, the world's first and only universal can cooler. Say goodbye to switching between coolers like you're rotating pitchers. Frost Buddy fits every 12-ounce can, slim can, 12-ounce bottle, and 16-ounce cans and bottles as well. All in one. No more guessing, no more swapping. Just grab it and go. And here's the game changer. Turn it into a tumbler by adding their 100% leak-proof coffee lid. That's right, from first pitch to morning commute, Frost Buddy's got you covered. So whether you're tailgating, watching from the couch, or celebrating a Reds win, this is the only cooler you'll need. Grab your favorite team's Frost Buddy now and keep it cold all season long. I do love my Frost Buddy. I will say that. I feel like I have to say that. I don't have to. I genuinely enjoy the product. I buy way too much.
Check out that URL at the bottom and the code as well if you have a QR code reader in your phone and all that. Yep, check it out there. But we were talking about the sad state of the Reds, that Spencer Steer was possibly a guy that we were going to get something for. A lot of people seem to be whispering about it. Toronto Blue Jays, Phillies. There's teams inquiring for the services of a Spencer Gordon Spear. I don't know exactly where we go from here because it's kind of maybe a silver lining that maybe he gets to stick around because he got hurt, or I don't know, maybe they can still trade him. Ricky, I think you wrote about this exact topic and about Steer's injury and the update about it. What were your thoughts on Spencer Steer and his potential lost trade value or sticking around with the Reds more?
Well, thankfully, it doesn't look like it's too severe. They said it was like a sheath that protects a ligament in his wrist. When it happened, I thought maybe he like broke his hamate bone or something, and then that would be a more severe injury where he'd be out, months and not just a couple weeks. They put him on the 10-day IL. That's encouraging. Generally, when you see 15-day IL, you're looking at like a month and a half return, just because of all the rehab starts and everything else. And they tend to let the 15-day IL linger longer than a 10-day IL stint. But yeah, I mean, Steer's been one of the better offensive players on this team outside of Ellie and Stewart. He's got 16 home runs. I think that puts him on pace. Prior to the injury, he was going to hit a career high. I think his career high was 23, and that was in 2023. I think they could still move him. You're just not going to get the return you would get from a healthy Spencer Steer. It's just, thankfully, I think he's still got 2 more years of control left. I think wasn't this year his first year of arbitration. So it's not the worst thing in the world to keep him this year, because you can still get value next year. It's just the year after, in 2028, is when you lose all the trade value, being like a rental year. But it sucks just because there have been teams inquiring about him. I think Seattle was one. I think the Phillies were rumored to be interested in him too. I can't remember the other team off the top of my head, but it's the same thing with like Nick Lodolo. It's just when he starts pitching well, and you think, all right, we're gonna get a package for him. Nope, another blister. But I can't say that I'm disappointed by all this going on. It's just more of like, man, we can't catch a break.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know who's in charge of the bubble wrap at the Reds, but they definitely need to do that with Brady Singer, so that he doesn't get a blister or some oblique or whatever. Because his trade value would definitely tank for sure. I think Steer is one of those everyday guys. He's in the lineup every day, whether he's playing first or outfield or second base sometimes. That was gettable, right? Like, because they're not going to get Sal. Obviously, they're not going to get, Ellie. They're not going to get. Well, they don't want probably Key Brian Hayes, but they're not going to get, probably they could get Blade. That's still possibly out there. But Steer seemed to be like one of the guys that was a little bit younger and could have those teams of years of team control that would be very appealing to other teams. And he's a solid player. He's not, I wouldn't say a superstar. I wouldn't say he was a below average player. He seems to be almost the average player, maybe a little bit above average, because he has above average power and above average fielding at first base, apparently, because he was a nominee for the Gold Glove at first base in 2025. So he does have a lot of value. And like I said, it was probably the most gettable out of, many of our everyday starting players. Does that become an issue for the Reds now with the trade deadline? I don't think so. I think it's almost like a silver lining for that. You still have potentially, like Singer, and you still have, like you said, Blade. Nate Lowe is another guy, a World Series winner in 2023 with the Texas Rangers. Very gettable, I think, even though that I think if they are to sign him, he would be pretty expensive on the open market based on how he's done this year. So definitely a guy that I think would be serviceable to, I don't know, whoever really needs a left-handed bat off the bench. He's been probably, like I said many times in the show, that he's probably one of the best bench players they've had in the last 5 to 6 years. And that's saying a lot, because generally if they're pretty good on the bench, they probably have to be in our lineup every single day, because it's not like we're fielding 9 or 10 all-stars. So I don't know how to feel about the Steer injury. Hopefully it's not a major thing like you wrote about. That would be great to hear. And if it's August 4th and Spencer Gordon Steer is still on this team, I'm not upset about
it. He could be one of those guys that if like we talked about earlier, that if the Reds make a run, he could be that third guy on the offensive side that can make a difference, especially if you can get Blade to get hot too, or not even hot, just be consistent. And Steer has power. He has good defense, like you said, and he plays everywhere. You could play him at third. You could play him at second. You could play him at first. You could DH. You could play corner outfield spots. Didn't he also have a game at center field earlier this year too? So, I mean, he can play anywhere you need him. They just need guys like Noel V. Marte to get hot. You need a guy like Matt McLean to come in and be at least a league average hitter. And, I don't know. It doesn't seem like it's impossible. It's just they need to make moves. I think they've got to do what needs to be done. They got to trade Singer. They got to trade Stephenson. I think you have to get Pagán's contract off your books to at least be flexible next year, because we don't know what the CBA is going to look like, if there even is a season next year, or at least to start the season. It's just this year, I feel like after April, thinking ahead, knowing what next year is going to look like, I think we kind of felt like this year could be our year. And, I don't think anybody would have expected the Reds to be sellers after April. And I think by the time May 12th hit, we're like, all right, we're done. We're selling. And that held true for nearly 2 months. And I don't know. It's just, it stinks. It stinks for Steer, because he seems like a really good clubhouse guy too. And not having him in the locker room every day and being on the field and being a competitive player just is, I don't want to say unfair, but unfair to him, just because you can tell how hard he works. It's the way it goes sometimes. And, they just have to make up for it in other ways.
Yeah, for sure. And that's whether Steer is here or not next year. That's to build around this core that we've been talking about lately is the tough part of the job for Brad Meador and Nick Krall. Like, obviously, we know, like I said, we know the 5 guys that are good. Unfortunately, that core seems to get smaller and smaller each year that we talk about these Reds, Ricky. Like, we were talking about CES, and Marte can still maybe still have a chance to be a part of that core. Benson obviously not anymore. Reese Hines not anymore. So it's like that 2023 team, 24 team, like, it's starting to dwindle down to the last couple remaining embers. But at least they extended one of them, right? We got Chase Burns locked in for 7 years. So they at least did one thing right. Now, can they not do the next 5 things wrong? We will find out. And we might have some special episodes when there's some trades and whatnot, a reaction to it as well. That's going to be interesting. It could be a big nothing. Like you said, in 23, they kind of did nothing. They just got added Sam Moll. We might have that scenario in 2026. Or it could be we sell and buy, like in 24, we sell Montas and then we add some other guy. So I don't know. This is kind of getting weird coming down to the last couple of days. They may be looking to see what the market is out there for, right? I can definitely hear in my head already a Nick Krall quote of like, yeah, we went out there, we fielded calls, we were trying to work deals, and it wasn't what we were wanting out of the deal, or it wasn't matching our expectations. I can hear that in my head already, as we still have Brady Singer and Nick Lodolo and Tyler Stephenson still on this team. You know what I mean? I can see that scenario too. So I don't know. Prove me wrong, Nick Krall, Brad Meador. You said you were selling. Let's see it. I mean, if that means Steer has to go, hopefully we can get something in return. If not, I don't know exactly what we're going to do for the next couple months. Hopefully we'll still be winning some games to make it exciting for the fans to go out to ballpark to see Chase Burns and Hunter Green and Andrew Abbott. But I don't know. It's kind of a strange existence we're in right now. This weird between.
Yeah. So kind of breaking news. Today's game did get postponed to tomorrow. It's a doubleheader for Tuesday. And Brady Singer was scheduled to pitch game 2, but they're going with an opener. So it looks like he may have made his final start with the Reds his last time out. Because after tomorrow, his next start would be Monday.
Or Sunday. If he follows Burns, because I think Burns is supposed to pitch Saturday, because they actually have 4 games against the Pirates. So he probably would be Sunday, but I don't know. He could be dealt before then. You're right.
Yeah, I mean,
That's
he
crazy.
may have made his final start with the team.
He got the bubble wrap out.
Yeah, just go lock him in a hotel room. Tell him don't leave his room. Just don't leave.
Yeah, we'll call you.
Yeah, we'll call you with something that we'll DoorDash you food, whatever you need.
Well, yeah. Anything else about Steer and the deadline before we
no,
move
just
on?
like I said, hope they sell. I don't want to see them sell. I don't know. I either want to see them go full tank or be 100% competitive. I don't want to see it half-assed.
I don't know if they're going to be 100% competitive, Ricky. So I don't need to burst your bubble.
But then I want to see a full sell.
Well, speaking of selling, we're going to talk about the Red Hot Red of the Week. But before that, we'll have this ad.
I made the switch from traditional coffee to mud water because of all that caffeine was leaving me feeling anxious. Mud water has a fraction of the caffeine, plus organic ingredients and functional mushrooms like lion's mane, reishi, chaga, and cordyceps that support immune functionality. It became a healthier part of my morning routine, and I genuinely enjoy the rich flavor. If you want to give it a try, use our exclusive link, mudwater.com/allglovesoff, and you'll get 20% off your first order.
All right. Thanks to Mudwater for being a great sponsor. We're going to move on to the Red Hot Red of the Week, the guy that's really kind of started off the season not so great and has come on strong. He was an all-star last year, had a great campaign in 2025, had 2 starts this week, battled on Monday, and then battled again on Sunday. This is Andrew Abbott, a guy that has been fantastic of late, just eating more innings, especially as, Chase Burns has kind of only gone 5 innings. Andrew Abbott's gone at least 6 innings the last couple starts, from my recollection, and has been just able to keep the walks down a little bit, been striking out guys a little bit more, not always having his top-notch stuff, right, as Ricky had mentioned earlier in the show, but has been a steady Eddie guy that we can depend on. I think did he pass or just tie Tom Browning for 100 starts for a left-handed pitcher in a Cincinnati Reds uniform? He's right around there at least. He might have just tied it, but just a guy that's been really consistent. Like I said, I'm counting him in the core 5, so we want to see a lot of good stuff out of Andrew Abbott going into 2027, and that's why we gave him the Red Hot Red of the Week. What were your thoughts about Mr. Abbott's week?
Yeah, I mean, like we said, he didn't have his best stuff, but he really battled. 12 innings in his last 2 starts, had 6 innings each. He had 12 strikeouts in those outings, and I think he only had I think I posted. I think it was 2 walks. Pull that graphic back up. 10 strikeouts, 2 earned runs. I think it was like 4 walks, but going back his last 15 starts, he's 4-4 with a 2.95 ERA, and his whip's at 1.26. He has walked a whole lot more this year than he did last year. Let me pull that up. Yeah, he's already surpassed 2025 and 2024's walk totals this season. He had 43 walks all of last year. I think he only had like 3 starts last year, maybe 4, where he walked more than 3 guys. And we're seeing a lot more walks out of him this year. I think that's just been the main issue. But, I think he was dealing with something in spring training, if I remember right. I can't remember. It feels like that was like 10 years ago. But he's getting hit this year too. 243 average against him this year. It was 235 last year. It was 240 in 2024. But one thing about Abbott going back to last year is he has really pitched better going later into the season as opposed to the other way around. It was his rookie year in 2023. I'll pull that up. he had a 6.08 ERA in August and a 6.10 ERA in September. And then in 2024, kind of a similar situation. He got shut down in September, if I remember right. 5.57 ERA in August, 3.29 ERA in July. And then last year, I think it still went up a little bit, but August it was 4.45, but in September he turned it right back around and was 3.95. So he's improving on that. I remember he made a comment that it wasn't even his arm that was tired, it was his legs. And he worked on his legs and his leg strength during the 2024 offseason going into 25. And that is where we saw the dramatic improvement for him throughout the season. And it seems to be working again this year. Obviously, we're not in August yet. We'll have to see what August looks like for him. But, it's good for him. I'm glad to see him pitching well. And, Red Hot Red of the Week, Andrew Abbott.
Yeah. The narrative had been with him is first half Abbott, and then after the All-Star break, he faded hard in 23 and 24. In 25, he seemed to kind of flip that. And the turning point last year was, I forget exactly what the day of the game was pitching against Cleveland, and he was going into the 8th inning, and then just got out of a jam in the 8th, and then got the 9th and the complete game shutout, 1-0 game, a high stakes game against Ohio Cup battling team, which we'll get into previewing the Ohio Cup that's coming up this week. But it's kind of crazy that he's now almost stronger in the second half. Like he's almost like flipped it because he started off pretty poor at the beginning of the year. People kind of wondering what's going on with Andrew Abbott. But he's been strong and steady since, and I'm glad that he's figured that out because it was kind of walks and getting hit were really getting to him, but he's starting to figure it out. And it's kind of, like I said, he's untouchable if we're talking about trades, and I'm glad nobody's even whispered about trading Andrew Abbott.
Yeah, 100% agree. Leave that up to next year.
All right, we got jokes, people. Anyway, so yeah, that was Andrew Abbott, Red Hot Red of the Week. Now on deck, got Cleveland. Ricky got the breaking news. Postponed tonight. No Chase Burns start. You'll have to see him tomorrow. Ricky's also experiencing severe weather, so hopefully we'll be able to get the rest of this episode in quickly. So we'll try to talk quickly and whatnot. But also big news of Brady Singer skipping a start. That's kind of crazy. Are they doing the right thing? I think so, especially if he is possibly a candidate to be dealt. Why risk it, right? He should understand. He's been in the business long enough. He's been traded before from Kansas City to our Cincinnati Reds. So that makes a lot of sense. But what does that mean for the Reds in this series against Cleveland and then 4 games against Pittsburgh, which I think they do see Skeens once Thursday or Friday. And then we should get another Burns start, although it might be the Sunday game now. So you're right. Weather update.
Yeah, there it is.
Tonight's game's been postponed.
I don't know what happened there.
Got a little tease there.
A little teaser.
Visual audience on the YouTubes. We'll get into that in a second. But yeah, they postponed the game. Doubleheader tomorrow. They'll be able to get into the game at 12:10 tomorrow morning, or tomorrow afternoon, I should say. You're right. It does push back the start for Mr. Brady Singer, so it would be a Sunday start for Chase Burns. So, yeah, I don't know. What do you think now the week looks like? 7 games in 6 days.
It makes it rough. Yeah, I mean, it is weird that Singer is skipping a start, but I think that just kind of tips their hand that they're going to move him, and they need to. I'm just glad that Burns is starting tomorrow, and he's not, he didn't warm up too hard to where he's got to skip a start too. But I'm going to be interested to see in who they bring up as like the taxi squad player for tomorrow, because they will have to bring somebody up for that, and I don't think that counts as an option. So
right.
It could be a random player in AAA. Who's on the AAA roster that's on the 40-man currently? I doubt they bring up Connor Phillips. McCambly, is he still on the team?
Yeah, he's still at AAA. He was just pitched the other day.
Okay.
And Chase Petty, right?
Yeah, I
Or is he
believe
already?
so.
He's on 26 man. I already lost on that one. Anyway,
I don't know.
I believe Zach McCambley's still on the 40 man. He was pitching in AAA just the other day. I wouldn't be surprised if he's the opener tomorrow, or he can go multiple innings. I think he's capable. At least go 2 innings, 2 or 3 maybe. That'd be nice.
It could be Jose Franco. He's
yeah.
on the 40 man.
He had a really good start this week too.
Or if they go bullpen, they could bring up like Maxwell or May to be a bullpen arm. But neither one of those guys have really pitched well this season at either level. And then the only other minor league pitcher is Connor Phillips, and he has struggled in AAA also. So unless they add somebody, which isn't impossible, to the 40 man, like a Trevor Kunsel or something like that, to
Hunter
Parks. Also, shout out Trevor Kunsel for getting engaged today. Congratulations to him for that. He posted that. So congratulations, Trevor Kunsel. But
nice.
I'm interested in seeing who they bring up, because they did activate Ivan Johnson for Spencer Steer. So I would assume they'd have to bring up a pitcher for the 27th man, I guess, is a taxi squad player.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm interested to see that. As far as the series goes, we got Tuesday's game, doubleheader, and then Wednesday, I'm gonna get my days right, is, I believe, Rhett Lauder starting game 3. So we'll see what happens there. Let me see if I can pull up their projected starter. Cantillo is their projected starter versus Lauder. He is 8-6 with a 4.02 ERA. As far as matchups against Cantillo, Blade is 0 for and 2 at bats. Ellie is 1 for 2 with a 1.167 OPS. Dane Myers is 1 for 3 with a home run, and Sal Stewart is 0 for 1. So we'll see what happens there. And then nobody on Cleveland has faced Lauder, so there's no history in that matchup.
It should be nice. I think we get obviously one, because Burns is going in the day game, and the day game will favor the pitcher, especially if it's hot and humid in the middle of July like it usually is. But yeah, the next 2 games, I'd like a Jose Franco start. I'm a bit partial to Jose Franco. He pitched well this week, 6 innings, 2 hits for a AAA game. I can't remember exactly what game that is. There might be a situation where he might not get enough rest, so it may not be him. But I'd like it if he has had enough rest for Franco to pitch on the 27th man taxi squad. Maybe get a series W in one day. Maybe we can all dream, right?
It could happen. But, could happen.
I think the bigger series is definitely the Pittsburgh series. But what do you think happens in Cleveland? Do you 2 out of 3 or?
Maybe we get the Tito magic and we have our continued streak out of the All-Star break, and we end July as a good team. And I'm sure there's a portion of the fan base that's always going to be negative, and there's a portion of the fan base that's always going to be over positive. It sucks being even keel, just because what's the point of being a fan when you're even keel? But even if you lose the games, just show fight. I don't want to see them just lay down and lose, but I could see them taking 2 out of 3. Was it last year? Was the first time in like 11 years that they won the Ohio Cup, and they have a chance to keep it. And even if they split the series, they still keep it. So you gotta try it, and we'll see what happens. I would love to see this team win the Ohio Cup for 2 straight years.
Yeah, I think they have to win 2 out of 3 to keep that, because you're right. If they tie, I think they lost 2 out of 3 in Cleveland earlier this year. If they lose the series against Cleveland, unfortunately, it goes back to them. But if they go 3-3 for 2026 against the Cleveland Guardians, stays in Cincinnati. So that's something to hope for. But yeah, besides that, then we got Pittsburgh 4 games. And we know that could be kind of treacherous. Last time we played 4 games against Pittsburgh, it wasn't great. And then we also have a Skeens start. I think it's Hunter Green versus Skeens, unless Hunter gets pushed back. I don't know. This whole doubleheader thing, Rhett Lauder didn't get pushed back, so I guess the only one that got pushed back was Singer. But I think we have Skeens and Hunter on Thursday night, which would be fireworks, to say the least. Fireworks Thursday as opposed to fireworks Friday. But I don't know. A 2 out of 2 split, and after maybe winning the Cleveland series, I think that's a good week. I don't know. It feels like the Pirates have had our number a little bit of late, so I'm not going to say that we're going to win 3 out of 4. That's tough, especially if one of them's against Paul Skeens and I forget the rest of the other pitchers that they don't. And Mitch Keller, I think maybe has another start as well. So it may be tough. It might be tough sledding.
Yeah. As far as the week goes, you want to see at least, you would hope for 4 wins. 2 out of 3 versus Cleveland, and you split the Pittsburgh series. Playing at home helps. Playing the Pirates, I think, and it was a pretty decent series the last time they played Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh. I can't remember, did they win that series, or I'm trying to remember. I know Gino had that go ahead home run. I
think we might have won 1 out of 3. I think we lost the Sunday game. Yeah, that would have been the rubber match.
It feels like forever ago. When was that?
Yeah, that was maybe the end of June.
Oh, we did take 2 out of 3. It was Friday and Saturday. We won, lost, went for the sweep, lost on Sunday. That was when we took 2 out of 3 against the Yankees, took 2 out of 3 against the Mets, got swept by Milwaukee, took 2 out of 3 against Pittsburgh, and got swept by Milwaukee. So, yeah.
Old habits die hard. Getting swept by Milwaukee. Yeah. Well, but that's a little bit of the thing, like the Reds. They can go on this little mini runs where they're beating teams, winning series. And then, at least this time, they didn't get swept by the Cardinals. I guess we can feel good about that, at the very least. But
if you go out and you take, you split the series against Pittsburgh, you feel a whole lot better as opposed to losing 3 out of 4. But it also hurts your chances at, tanking. So I don't know. It's tough. It's a tough place to be in as a fan, just because you want to see your team win. Like I've said 1,000 times, it's just, you also want to know there's a future also.
Yeah, that's for sure. There is one guy that has a future with this team, although he's not going to be extended, unfortunately, because we know who his agent is. But we got a guy that has his bobblehead coming up in about a month or so. Elly De La Cruz. We're doing another giveaway, 2 tickets, Reds versus Brewers, September 5th. Elly bobblehead giveaway. The way that you get in there, and we're going to put it all our socials. It's just like the other giveaway. Make sure you're subscribed to our channel. You can post it on the Facebook. You can post it on our X. You can post it on Instagram to show that you are, you're subscribed. Also, it's going to be a Optics, which I believe, Ricky, because you've, I think, done this before. I don't think I've had the pleasure.
Yes.
That you get some
you get a $10 food credit.
Yes. So you get a ticket, you get a bobblehead, and you can get your first beer or first hot dog, whatever your preference is. And you get to hopefully see the Reds not get swept by the Brewers. Fingers crossed. Because we were just talking about that. No, I don't want to jinx it yet. But, yeah. Check out the giveaway. We'll post it everywhere for everyone to see.
Yeah, just, reply with a screenshot showing that you're subscribed on the Facebook post, the X post. You can DM us on Instagram if that's how you view our content, even though a lot of our followers on Instagram are just players. So we'll, whatever is the easiest way for you. And then we'll announce the winner. What do you say, around the end of August? We'll give it a month. We'll do August 31st, maybe, whatever that. August 31st is a Friday, so we'll do August 31st is a Monday. So maybe we'll do the 30th show, or I don't know. We'll figure something out. But we'll do the same way. We'll put all the names on a spinning wheel, and we'll just pick the winner through the spinning wheel. Let the computer decide who wins. So there's no funny business. If the two of us are both available, we might just live stream it, and we'll pick the winner through a live stream, and we'll see what happens there. But yeah, I mean, it sucks that both of our giveaways have been against the Brewers, but I mean, LA bobblehead days are always packed. And it's a Saturday game. It's going to be a lot of people there. I will say this, the Phi-Optic section is a really cool place to sit. If you're not familiar with it, it's on the third base side by the left field foul pole up a level, and it's general admission in the seating area. So you can sit wherever you want. You can sit front row, you can sit back row. There's a patio on the concourse that you can sit, watch the game on the couch. You can play cornhole. There's all kinds of stuff you can do in that section. It's a really cool place to sit. It's one of my favorite places to sit if I'm just going with the family. So really cool section. I'm jealous of whoever wins this because I want an LA bobblehead too. But if you win, tag us in a post. Show us the bobblehead. Tag us showing where you're sitting. Get a Sky Rosa with your food credit. Something cool. If you haven't tried a Sky Rosa, try it. It's delicious.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, also make sure you have the MLB Ballpark app. The tickets will be digital, just to make sure. Anyone that doesn't have that, I know it's getting more rare and rare, Ricky, to get actual physical tickets nowadays. But just in case, the tickets will be digital. Make sure you have that app. Just forward it to your email and all that, and you'll be good to go to see the Reds. And it's Labor Day weekend as well, so it'd be probably kind of a crazy crowd. Who knows? The Bengals will be starting up pretty soon around that time, so it'll be a good time. Hopefully, happy all with a Reds W. But yeah, anything else, Ricky? You got any pieces coming out or anything like that?
None currently. I don't think we're probably not going to have a Minor League Monday show. So I guess we could shout out Tyson Lewis. He will be our prospect of the week this week. What'd you say he had? Like 3 games in a row with a home run.
Mm-hmm.
Really has turned it up a notch since he's got to high A. And, with our schedules and everything going on with the weather and internet issues yesterday, it's going to be hard to get a Monday show out, especially with the weather going on right here. I'm probably going to lose power. But shout out Tyson Lewis. I think he's an example of someone that you don't give up on a prospect based on how they're playing at the lowest level in the minor leagues. Pitching's always a factor. Strike zone's always a factor. The stadium's always a factor. It's really hard to hit in Daytona. Also, shout out Kyle Henley being promoted to high A. I heard there's going to be some more moves here in the coming days with the ACL season ending. Maybe we'll see Justin LeBron make a debut. I doubt it, but maybe we see Steele Hall go to possibly high A. I think he should. He probably goes to low A, but he should go to high A. And Hervin Murillo looked really good. He's been on a hot streak playing catcher. What's he now? The 8th ranked prospect. He's jumped up high.
On some counts. I don't know if officially.
Yes, I don't think it's official MLB pipeline, but I think Baseball America has him pretty high. Probably see Adolfo Sanchez get moved up. Eli Pitts. There's a lot of guys in the ACL that we're really excited about, and we'll talk about the minor leagues on the Major League Show every once in a while, and here we go. So yeah, there's a lot of low level prospects that are really exciting, and the majority of the top prospects are in the lower levels. So, while it does stink that your highest levels doesn't have the prospects that are coming, like in 2023, where Ellie was the number 1 prospect in baseball. Matt McLean was like the 9th prospect in the system. Andrew Abbott was up there. CES was up there. Spencer Steer was up there. We don't have the guys that are in AAA other than Hector that are, top 5 prospects, even top 10 prospects, really. A lot of the guys it's 2027, 2028, some in 2029 that I think 2028, 2029 could be another 2023 where a lot of these guys come up like a Steelhall, like a Tyson Lewis, like a Cam Collier, Alfredo Duno, Jose Acuna, potentially Nestor Laurent. Like a lot of these guys could come up. Aaron Watson in 3 to 4 years. Hervin Murillo. We have 2 legitimate catching prospects. And I couldn't tell you the last time we had 2 legitimate catching prospects coming up at the same time.
Yeah. Just to put the line out there on Tyson Lewis, this week he went 12 for 26, 462 batting average, 1.346 OPS, 3 homers, back-to-back days, 8 RBIs, and 5 stolen bases. The kid can run. He's got 5 tools. And his defense has been looking a little bit better there at third base, which I think is his future position. I think they see him as a power corner infielder. And also, to shout out some ACL guys, they're playing their World Series. They lost their first game, but it's a best of 3. So the ACL is still in the playoffs. They play today, and if they win, I think they play tomorrow. So maybe there'll be some recap where we talk about the moves or maybe a championship for the ACL Reds. Huh? How about that? Phil Castellini and Bob Castellini said they're bringing championship baseball to Cincinnati. Maybe to Arizona too. But
he didn't say specifically Cincinnati. He said the organization.
ACL's in the organization. Yeah, got you there. But yeah, you got anything else, Ricky?
No. Just congratulations to those guys playing hard down there.
Yeah, they've had a great season. But until then, go Reds.
Go Reds.